If people are horrible to you, mean, cruel, indifferent, why shouldn't you be just as awful right back to them? If someone disrespects you, why should you respect them?
After all this time, why now? You left me because I was no use to you, right?
Anita rose, so I sent for you.
But why? Why me?
Because this task would be impossible for others.
Maybe you've got a bad relationship with your parents, but it's probably not so bad that your father only calls you to go to war against space monsters. Gendo doesn't even refer to his son as a person, let alone his own child.
Use Unit 1, but there's no pilot for it.
No matter. Another spare will arrive shortly.
To Gendo, others are mere instruments to his ends. His own son isn't exempt from this cruel calculus. Gendo's actual end is the annihilation of mankind. But would his mistreatment of others be justified by the opposite end, saving all mankind? The 18th century German philosopher Immanuel Kant doesn't think so. To Kant, Gendo's behavior directly violates the humanity formula of the categorical imperative. We should never act in such a way that we treat humanity, whether in ourselves or in others, as a means only, but always as an end in itself. In other words, how would you feel if one of your friends thought of you merely as a means to their own happiness? I imagine you wouldn't consider that person a friend properly understood, nor would you tolerate such treatment. Shinji certainly doesn't.
I can't do this!
When Shinji refuses to be wielded like a tool in his father's hand, Gendo wastes no time in turning to his other implement, Rei Ayanami. Her poor physical condition and the risk to her life mean nothing to him.
For Yutsuki. Wake up, Rei.
In her condition?
She's not dead.
And if the case of Gendo Ikari isn't enough to discredit this ends justify the means mentality, he's joined by the estimable head scientist of nerve, Ritsuko Akagi, another Machiavellian. Initially, Ritsuko is reluctant to go along with Gendo's plan to throw children at the angels.
It'll be difficult on those children.
No one else can pilot the Avas. So as long as they're not dead, they have to.
And how do they feel about it? Does it even matter?
Although Ritsuko genuinely asked this question at the time, it becomes increasingly rhetorical as the plot goes on. One that Ritsuko answers in the negative. The pilot's very lives are as irrelevant as their feelings and autonomy.
Whether or not the pilot survives is immaterial.
Is this the kind of statement a good guy makes? If Ritsuko's utter disregard for Shinji's life constructs the casket for her moral character, her treatment of Rei Ayanami hammers the final nail into the coffin.
No, Ritsuko! Do you realize what you've done?
Yes, I destroyed property. Objects that aren't human, they're only shaped like humans.
Are individual rights utterly inviolable regardless of the context and consequences? This is a tough question that can be debated in good faith by reasonable people. Is it right to consider people as property? There's only one acceptable answer to this question. In treating Rei and Shinji like tools instead of what they are, human beings, and how they expect to be treated themselves, Ritsuko and Gendo violate the golden rule. No fancy Kantian ethics needed. After all this abuse, does Shinji treat others as disposable objects? They say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, but Shinji landed in a whole other orchard.
They'll clean up after us,
In case we fail our mission.
they'll incinerate the angel using an N2 mine. Us along with it.
How could they? Who would ever issue an order like that? It's crazy!
Commander Ikari would.
Although Shinji initially refuses to pilot the Eva, understandably terrified of the angels and perplexed by the mecha, Shinji's move to
Get in the Ava.
when he sees the bedbound Rei.
I'll do it! I'll be its pilot!
Not only does Shinji pilot the Eva to defend the helpless, he refuses to do so when an angel infects another Eva unit.
That's my target. But that's an Ava! There's someone in there, and they could be the same age as me. Probably a kid.
Shinji flat out refuses to engage the target, realizing he could kill an innocent person in the process.
Shinji, why aren't you fighting?
Father! There's someone inside that Ava!
Irrelevant. That is an angel. Our enemy, your target.
I cannot just murder someone!
You'll die if you don't.
Fine! That's better than murder!
Why does Shinji refuse to treat other people as mere means when others treat him like this? Why is it better for Shinji, and for all of us, to suffer injustice rather than perpetrate it? These questions are ultimately reducible to one asked by Plato 2,400 years ago. What is justice? In Republic, after his lengthy question and answer exercise, Socrates gets around to an answer. Justice is that virtue by which the soul lives and consists in being ruled by reason instead of passion or appetite. When one lives justly, one lives harmoniously. When one lives unjustly, letting the inferior parts of himself dictate his actions and emotions, one lives in a state of inner turmoil. Evangelion supplies us with ethical exemplars who drive this point home. Characters who refuse to use each other at their caprice, but respect them as fellow human beings. Characters who treat others justly. These are the ones that flourish. Shinji is joined by Misato Katsuragi, head of operations at NERV, and his consideration of others.
Ma'am, are we abandoning headquarters?
No, but there's no reason to needlessly put the population at risk.
Not only is there no reason to put the population at risk, but the purported purpose of NERV, and Misato's genuine motivation, is to protect the population of Earth from utter annihilation. Sacrificing the population to save it is patently absurd. The means are inconsistent with the purported end. But maybe the number of people sacrificed and the number saved count to determine the rightness of the overall action. Perhaps, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Back to Misato. Not only does she demonstrate regard for the people she's sworn to protect, but she also values those under her command, Shinji, for example, as someone who is worth protecting, someone who is valuable in and of himself.
He's only 14. Burdening him with the fate of humanity is a bit much, isn't it?
Unsurprisingly, Ritsuko doesn't care about
burdening pilots and putting them at risk of psychological trauma.
We have no other choice.
Misato goes even further than expressing doubts about the acceptability of burdening a teenager with humanity's fate. She outright rejects doing so if Shinji's not on board.
If piloting the Eva only causes him pain and suffering and he's doing it out of duty, then it's best if he left.
And she's not kidding either.
If you don't want to do it, then get out of here! Forget about the Evas and about all of us!
Why does Misato care about Shinji's motivation? It's because she cares about him. Misato doesn't merely want Shinji to do what's right, save the Earth and everybody on it, but she wants him to do so for the right reason, because human life is valuable, and with the right emotion, satisfaction, pride, flourishing. Misato's insistence on the alignment of right reason, action, and emotion reveals a distinctly Aristotelian ethical framework. And we're brought right back to the original question about justice. Shinji ought to do what's right because exercising the requisite virtues cultivates in himself the kind of character that enjoys living, that flourishes instead of flounders. In other words, justice is intrinsically beneficial to the just man, not only to others. Shinji takes Misato up on her offer. He gives up piloting the Eva. But, like his first time piloting it, his concern for others, his right reason, motivates him to get back inside. A farewell visit from Toji and Kensuke reminds Shinji why he should rejoice in fighting the good fight.
Of course, we're not here to try and make you stay. We know what it's like for you to pilot an Eva.
In genuinely respecting Shinji's autonomy and his right to say no, Toji and Kensuke inspire him to do the hard, right thing, to put his own life on the line to struggle for the sake of his friends, if not for humanity writ large. They inspire in Shinji the emotion proper to his valiant conduct, satisfaction in having done, or attempting to do, the honorable. Gendo is also trying to save the world, at least as far as Shinji is concerned. So why does Shinji rightly consider him to be so vicious?
Father! That brute tried to kill Toji! And he used me to do it!
Though Gendo's certainly no saint, he wasn't trying to kill Toji per se. His goal was to eliminate the hostile angel that had taken over Toji's Eva unit. Some jargon from ethical theory is helpful to understanding Gendo's conduct here. His direct intention is to destroy the angel. He only obliquely intends to destroy the Eva unit and Toji that it's hijacked. Less pretentiously, if Gendo had a way to neutralize the angel without killing Toji, he'd take it. His intended end is the angel's annihilation. Toji is just something that stands in the way of him achieving this, and he accepts his death as acceptable collateral to said end. Whether there is a genuine moral distinction between direct and oblique intention is a subject of active debate between ethical theorists. It's certainly up for debate on this channel. What isn't up for debate is that, in his typical consequentialist fashion, Gendo utterly discounts Shinji's autonomy and Toji's innocence. Instead of taking his authoritarian tack, Gendo could and should have adopted the strategy employed by Misato, Kaji, and Toji to persuade his son to do what's right.
Listen, Shinji, I can only stay here and water my plants, but there is something that you can do.
Kaji, like Gendo, and the rest of humanity for that matter, is powerless to confront the threat of the angels. The most he can do is keep calm, tend to his plants, and inspire those with the power to do something to do that thing. And we respect him for doing what he can no more or less than we respect the Eva pilots for their grander displays of virtue. After all, ought implies can. To say Kaji ought to defeat the angels is the same as saying that I ought to fly to the top of a burning building to rescue a baby. It'd be great, but it's simply not possible, and that's why I'm not blamed for not doing it. Instead, Kaji does what is in his power to do, inspire those with the power to defend humanity to do so. Like Toji and Kensuke before him, Kaji succeeds in inspiring Shinji to step up to the plate, put himself in harm's way, and fight for the otherwise defenseless humanity, even for those who don't deserve it. But not just for the sake of humanity, for the sake of Shinji's own moral character and resultant happiness.
Figure out what you need to do right now, so you don't have any regrets later, alright?
Shinji's friends encourage him to fight on without demanding it of him or guilt-tripping him in any way. To the extent that Misato is guilty of just this, she recognizes that it's wrong and apologizes to Shinji.
But Shinji, to be honest, I pinned all my hopes, aspirations, and sense of purpose on you, and I know that's been a terrible burden for you.
Like Toji and Kensuke, Misato recognizes the terrible, unasked-for burden that defending humanity has placed on a 14-year-old teenager, a mere boy. Ritsuko rightly acknowledges that
being too principled can be painful. It'll make it harder to work with others.
But without principles, without commitment to the dignity and rights of human beings, what are we working toward in the first place? If human beings are merely sacrificial lambs to be dispatched at will, what are we sacrificing for? Those sympathetic to the Gendo-Ritsuko side of the argument might think, well, it's better to knowingly sacrifice the few, regardless of their age, and certainly against their will, to save the many. An easy argument to make if you're on the side of the many. But what's at stake on both tracks of this extended trolley problem is the same. Each person, whether one of the 7 billion on one side or one of the 3 Eva pilots on the other, stands to lose that most valuable thing to himself, his own life. As the philosopher John Torek argues in his essay, Should the Numbers Count?, there is no party to whom the value of 7 or 7 billion lives aggregates. In all life and death scenarios, what stands to be lost is the inestimable value of one's own life to himself. In short, the numbers don't count, which is why viewers of Evangelion find themselves opposed to the callous calculation of Gendo and Ritsuko while supporting Shinji, Misato, Kaji, and friends. The first two don't give a rat's tuchus about the individuals they claim to want to save. The others do, as should we all. People are only worth freely sacrificing for if each and every person's life, hopes, and dreams are immeasurably valuable in their own right. In respecting the individual, we behave justly, avoid conflict within ourselves, and positively flourish when we take the right action on the basis of right reason and feel the right emotion in our souls. Happiness, harmony, and peace. Eudaimonia, as Aristotle would say. Those who commit injustice, who treat people as mere means, not only abuse others, but themselves.